The hat was older than the town. Sweat salted. Sun faded. Brim nipped by wind and bad decisions. Colt Maddox set it on the bar with the careful weight of a man placing a gravestone, and the saloon's lanterns hummed like summer locusts. Outside, the street held a hush that wasn't natural, the kind born when folks decide to watch trouble from behind curtains. Mae Delaney finished a verse, and let the last note hang like a silver coin tossed in the dark. Her eyes found Colt's hat before they found Colt, and something flickered across her face, memory maybe, or warning. She slipped off the stage, the hem of her dress kissing sawdust, and brushed past card tables where men lost years for pennies. "You came late, Colt," she said, voice low as whiskey. "I came alive," he answered, and his mouth tilted into a tired smile. "That's late for men like me." A piano key thunked sour. The piano man's fingers stuttered, then resumed. Little Finch, thin as a fence slat, hovered near the door with a satchel of telegrams, pretending not to stare. Sister Mercy sat alone at a corner table, coat draped over the chair back, hymn book closed, eyes not. She watched like a night hawk. Colt did not touch the whiskey. He touched the hat, 2 fingers at the brim. "One day," he murmured, just loud enough for Mae, "you'll wear my hat." "Don't say that." Mae's smile was sunshine on iced creek water. "Men say that right before the worst thing." He nodded, as if she'd confirmed what he already knew. "It's a promise." The doors lifted and swallowed the street light. Sheriff Amos Pike came in with the soft good manners of a funeral. He wore town authority like a Sunday suit, pressed, polite, and not to be questioned. 2 deputies floated behind him, hands resting easy near holsters, easy like snakes warming on a rock. "Evening, Miss Delaney," Pike said. "Evening, folks." His eyes slid to Colt. "Mr. Maddox." "Sheriff," Colt returned. The room pretended to breathe again. Cards snapped, glasses clinked, the kind of noise people make to convince themselves they are not afraid. Mae drifted closer to Colt, not touching him, not needing to. "I've had correspondence," Pike said lightly, pulling a folded telegram from his vest. "From Abilene. A bank agent claims a certain ledger went missing during a certain incident. A ledger tied to a certain man with a certain hat. Must be a popular style," Colt said. Pike smiled, small and showy. "He also claims the lady who sings at our fine establishment keeps that ledger under floorboard number 7, dressing room 2. Eyes planted themselves on tables, on boots. You could have heard a moth pass. Mae's hand didn't tremble, but Colt felt the tremor anyway, an echo in his bones. It wasn't fear. Mae didn't spend fear on men like Pike. It was calculation. There are moments when a future is a hallway and doors shut quick. "Search would be such an ugly word," Pike went on. "But the law does have its needs." Sister Mercy rose, gentle as prayer. "The law has its needs," she said. "So does God. Both do poorly when they confuse hunger with righteousness." Pike tipped his hat to her. "Ma'am, I thank you for the sermon." Jax Holloran stepped from shadow near the piano, as if he'd been playing patience with the dark. Silver tooth flashing a coy "Hello." He clapped slow. "Always did love a congregation, Colt. Fancy seeing your hat again." "Jax." Colt's voice turned the room colder. Their past laid itself between them like a coiled rope. Little Finch edged closer. "Mr. Maddox," he whispered. "Word is Jax has been promising to sell the ledger to whoever hates you most." "That's a crowded market, kid," Colt said without looking. Mae inhaled, soft, sharp. "The ledger can burn," she said. "It's ink and paper and old ghosts." She glanced toward the dressing hallway. "But there's a name in there that matters more than money. A name that would set this town on fire if it got loose." Pike heard it. He had an ear for fire. All the more reason for a lawful hand to hold it. Colt lifted the hat and set it on his head. The action steadied him the way a ship finds its keel. "Sheriff," he said, "how about we trade something cleaner than search warrants? I give you Jax Holloran. You forget the floorboards." Jax laughed. but the sound wobbled. "You don't have me to give." "I had you once," Colt said, "and I recall you owe me a sunrise." The room leaned in. Men who'd never see a duel leaned in like it might save them. Sister Mercy's hand lowered to the hymnal bag. The leather mouth yawned a warning. Tomas Vega appeared at the saloon's edge, ghost quiet, eyes on Mae, then Colt, then the door. He nodded once to Colt, a small hatless vow. Pike considered. He liked trade, so long as it ended with him richer. "Mr. Maddox, you know I'm fond of arrangements, but a man who can offer Jack's Holloran can also offer that ledger. Bring it to my office by dawn and we call it an evening." Mae's voice thinned. "By dawn is a rope around our necks." "By dawn," Pike repeated, smiling, "is Mercy." Colt stepped closer to Mae. Dust lifted, caught in the lantern glow like lost stars. "I made a promise once," he said. "Different town, different graveyard. I broke it, and the wind still remembers. I'm not breaking this one." "What promise?" she asked. "One day," he said again, softer, "you'll wear my hat." His eyes didn't leave hers. "Not because I'm gone, because I lived long enough to hand it to you." Jax clicked his tongue. "That's sweet, Colt. Shame you won't have a head to rest it on." He feinted left. Deputies shifted. The piano coughed a broken chord, and silence fell hard behind it. Pike's smile flattened to a knife. Colt didn't draw. He turned, slow as a clock hand, and walked toward the back hall. "Mae," he said, "show me floorboard 7. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Fixing a book before it gets read aloud by the wrong preacher." He cut a glance at Sister Mercy. "No offense." "Plenty taken," she replied calmly. "And forgiven." They reached the hall mouth. Jax's boots scraped behind them, echoing a hunter's patience. Pike followed, deputies fanning to cup the corridor like hands. The saloon held its breath again, the kind that hurts your ribs. Mae's dressing room door gave, hinges sighing. Powder scent, perfume, a feather boa slumped like a tired rainbow. She knelt, counted boards in a voice only Colt could hear, and pressed her thumb to the 7th. Wood lifted with a stubborn little groan. Inside, the ledger waited cracked spine, pages foxed by heat and time. Colt flipped it open, names marched like ants. Debts and deals, a map of sins. He stopped midway. One name had been inked harder than the rest, the nib stabbing the paper with an angry hand. Mae's eyes glassed. "You see it." "I see it," he said. Pike's shadow filled the threshold. "We all will, soon." The hallway light flickered once, as if a hand pinched the flame. From the front room came the brittle sound of a glass tipping, then the mean hush after. Colt closed the ledger. The boards clicked back into place. He faced Pike, hat brim low, the promise sitting on his tongue like a coin he might spend. Jax's palm hovered near iron, aching to sing. "By dawn," Pike said pleasantly, "or I take everything." Colt smiled without showing teeth. "Sheriff," he said, "you already took too much." A single sound cracked the silence, the metallic kiss of a hammer drawn back, and the hallway swallowed the light. The hammer's click hung in the hall like a wasp in a church. Colt Maddox didn't flinch. He'd heard the sound too many times before, and fear had long ago traded its place for instinct. Mae Delaney still crouched by the floorboards, her fingers brushing the hidden ledger like a prayer she dared not finish. Her voice whispered sharp as broken glass. "Colt, they'll kill us before dawn." "Maybe," Colt said, low and steady, "but not before I read what this book's got to say." Jax Holloran's laugh slid down the hallway. "You always were a poet with a pistol, Colt. Care to recite a verse for old time's sake?" Sheriff Pike raised his hand, stopping his deputies. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes were tight as a drawn noose. "Gentlemen, no need to waste bullets when words might do." He gestured toward the ledger. "Mr. Maddox, if you'd be so kind." Colt straightened, the hat's brim shadowing his eyes. "If you wanted the ledger, Sheriff, You should have dug up your own sins instead of sending snakes to do it. Mae rose, the ledger pressed against her chest. You don't want this book, Amos. Not really. It'll rot your hands same way it rotted everyone in it. The sheriff's jaw twitched. Hand it over, Mae. Before she could move, Sister Mercy's voice cut through the tension like a hymn through smoke. She stood in the hall's mouth, hymnal bag slung across her shoulder. The Lord don't bless bargains made with shadows, she said, and that book carries enough shadow to drown this whole town. Colt's hand hovered near his holster. He could feel Jax's grin burning into the side of his head. The silver-toothed outlaw leaned against the doorframe, fingers twitching near his revolver like a gambler itching for one more card. Then a smaller voice slipped into the air. Little Finch had followed, too quick, too curious. His satchel hung awkwardly on his shoulder as he stepped past the deputies. "Mr. Maddox," he whispered. "There's names in there I heard at the telegraph office. Folks writing letters, paying for secrets to stay buried. It's more than just a book, it's a fuse." The deputies shoved him back, but the damage was done. Pike's eyes flickered. For a heartbeat, the mask of civility cracked, and everyone saw the hunger underneath. Tomas Vega moved at the edge of the hall, silent as a ghost. He leaned a shoulder against the wall, his gaze steady on Colt. No words, just a nod, the kind that meant "I'll stand with you when the dust flies." Colt exhaled slow. "Sheriff, I'll tell you plain. You'll get this ledger over my dead body, but before you try it, you might want to read the page that's carved in deeper than the rest." He turned the book toward the lantern light, flipping to the ink-scored name. Mae's hand tightened on his arm. "Don't," but it was too late. The name gleamed in the wavering flame. Amos Pike. The sheriff froze. His deputies shifted, confused. Jax's grin widened like a snake uncoiling. "Well, now," he drawled. "Ain't that a gospel worth singing? The lawman's the dirtiest outlaw of us all." For the first time, Amos Pike's smile faltered. His hand went for his gun. Colt moved faster. His revolver cleared leather, iron steady in the lantern glow. Tomas's knife flashed at a deputy's throat. Sister Mercy's hand slipped inside her hymnal bag, and Little Finch scrambled for cover. The hallway trembled on the edge of thunder. "Careful, Sheriff," Colt said, his voice the scrape of gravel. "One shot here, and the whole town will know who you really are." Pike hesitated, sweat tracing his temple. His deputies looked from him to Colt, then to the ledger. Uncertainty, seeding doubt. And Jax only laughed. The sound sharp as glass. "Looks like your hat's heavier than ever, Colt. Careful you don't bury yourself under it." He tipped his silver-tooth grin and melted into the shadows, gone as quick as he'd come. The saloon beyond stirred, restless, sensing the storm brewing. The piano man struck a nervous chord, and the sound shivered through the walls. Mae whispered, "Colt." "What now?" Colt kept his gun leveled. The ledger clutched tight in his other hand. "Now," he said, "we see how far a promise can carry a man before dawn." The lantern flickered again, and the hallway drowned in half-dark. Sheriff Pike's eyes glowed like a cornered wolf. The clock outside struck midnight, its chime echoing through the dust. And in that tolling silence, every soul in the saloon knew. The night had chosen sides. The midnight chime still rattled the windows when Sheriff Amos Pike lowered his pistol, though the wolf fire in his eyes burned hotter. Colt Maddox didn't blink, revolver steady, ledger clutched like scripture in his other hand. The hallway stank of kerosene and sweat, and every breath carried the weight of decisions that couldn't be undone. Mae Delaney pressed closer to Colt. Her voice hushed but fierce. "He'll never let us walk out of here. Not with his name carved in that book." Colt's hat shadowed his face, but his tone was iron calm. "Then we won't walk, we'll ride." Pike laughed. A broken sound. "You think daylight will save you? By dawn this whole town will be mine again, ledger or not." Little Finch clutched his satchel, eyes darting between Colt and Pike. "Mr. Maddox," he whispered, "if we take this to the telegraph office tonight, Send those names across the wire. The whole territory would know. Careful, boy, Pike hissed. You'll be dead before you touch a key. Sister Mercy stepped forward, hymnal bag heavy at her side. Her voice carried the slow thunder of a sermon. Sheriff, a man who hides his sins in paper is still a man bound for judgment. You can shoot him, but you can't shoot the truth. The deputies shifted uneasily. Doubt gnawed at them now, chewing through the thin veneer of loyalty. Tomas Vega's knife gleamed against one deputy's throat. Quiet but certain, his silence a louder promise than words. Colt lowered the ledger slightly, not his gun. You've got two choices, Amos. Step aside and let us leave with this book, or spill your own blood trying to stop me. Either way, the sun's coming. The sheriff's jaw locked. I'll see you hang before dawn, Maddox. Colt tilted his head. Maybe, but I keep my promises first. His hand brushed the brim of his hat. Mae's breath caught. She knew the vow in his eyes was as heavy as lead. A crash shattered the standoff. The saloon's front window burst inward, glass spraying like desert hail. Men in dust-black coats stormed in riders from Pike's payroll, guns already in hand. The saloon erupted. Tables overturned, lanterns swung, and the air filled with the reek of gunpowder. Colt shoved Mae behind him, firing once clean, sharp. A hat toppled into the dust, its owner screaming as he went down. Tomas dragged the deputy away, blade flashing. Sister Mercy dropped to one knee. Her hymnal bag, snapping open the pistol, gleamed inside. Holy steel catching lantern flame. Little Finch ducked beneath the piano, clutching his satchel. His thin voice cut through the chaos. The telegraph. Somebody has to run. Jack's Holloran reappeared in the wreckage, silver tooth flashing like the devil's grin. He leaned against a shattered beam, revolver loose in his hand. Looks like the party started without me. Colt fired again, grazing wood near Jax's head. I told you once, Jax, you owe me a sunrise. Then you best make it to sunrise. Jax sneered, or we'll never be even. The fight swallowed the room. Bullets cracked, glass shattered, men cursed. Colt grabbed Mae's hand, yanking her toward the back door. Vega covered their retreat, blade moving faster than the eye, while Sister Mercy fired her pistol with calm precision, each shot a hymn. Outside, the desert night stretched wide and merciless, stars watching like silent judges. Horses stamped nervously at the hitch rail. Colt vaulted into the saddle, hauling Mae up behind him. "Hold on," he barked. Pike's voice chased them through the dust. "By dawn, Maddox, by dawn you'll hang." Colt spurred his horse hard, ledger tucked against him, Mae's arms tight around his waist. The night wind tore at his hat, but it held. His promise still rode with him. Behind, the town's lanterns flickered in the rising smoke, and gunfire echoed like church bells for the damned. Ahead lay the desert, black and wide, and the cruel certainty that dawn would not bring mercy, only reckoning. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the Wild West. The desert night swallowed Colt Maddox and Mae Delaney whole, hooves pounding a heartbeat against the dust. The air was cold enough to bite, yet sweat slicked Colt's brow beneath the brim of his hat. Every mile between them and Pike's men felt like a coin flipped in the dark, freedom on one side, death on the other. Mae clung to him, her breath warm against his back. "Colt, where are we riding?" "Where the ledger can't be burned or buried," he said, "and where dawn don't come easy." Behind them, faint gunfire still stitched the night. Sheriff Pike's men would give chase, and Jack's Holloran, he was a hunter who never slept. They crested a ridge. Below, moonlight spilled over the carcass of a mining town, long abandoned, its timbers sagging like old bones. Rusted rail tracks cut through sand and sage. A ghost town, silent but watchful. Colt reined in. "We'll hole up here. Pike won't risk too many men in a place already cursed." Mae slid down, eyes darting at the hollow windows. "I've sung in towns like this. All that's left are echoes." "Echoes can hide a man better than walls," Colt said. He led the horse into the shell of a livery stable, shadows swallowing them. From a dark corner, a low whistle rose. Tomas Vega stepped into the moonlight, knife at his side, eyes steady. He'd followed without being seen, as quiet as a ghost's shadow. "Knew you'd ride this way," Tomas said simply. Colt nodded once. "You still with me?" "Until the ledger's weight is lifted," Tomas answered. Mae hugged the book tighter. "Weight like this never lifts. It just breaks the backs that carry it." Before Colt could reply, a small figure slipped through a broken window, little Finch. Dust streaked his cheeks, satchel still bouncing at his hip. "Mr. Maddox," he panted. "I cut wires at the telegraph office. Bought us a little time." Colt's jaw tightened. "That's good work, boy." "Dangerous work." Finch grinned, nervous but proud. "Figure danger's cheaper than silence." A creak above broke the moment. Sister Mercy appeared on the balcony of the abandoned saloon across the street, lantern in hand, pistol at her hip. Her voice carried calm and cold as the night. "Riders coming." "Not many." "Not yet." Colt's eyes narrowed. "Scouts." Mae's grip on his arm was sharp. "It'll be Jack's." As if summoned, a laugh cut through the wind low, mocking, carried on the desert's breath. Jack's Holleran rode in slow, silver tooth glinting, 2 gunmen trailing him like shadows on chains. He reined up in the town square, horse pawing the sand. "Colt Maddox," Jack's called, voice echoing through empty walls. "Never thought I'd find you hiding in a coffin town. Fitting, though. Saves me the trouble of digging your grave." Colt stepped from the livery's shadow, revolver loose but ready at his side. "You rode all this way for my hat, Jax? Or just to bleed my sunrise out of me?" Jax grinned wide. "Your sunrise, my payday. Sheriff Pike's paying fine for that ledger. And if I can watch you fall while I collect, well, that's worth more than gold." The wind hissed through broken shutters, carrying the stench of gun oil and old regrets. Tomas flanked Colt. Finch crouched low, eyes wide. Mae's hand brushed Colt's arm, whispering a plea he already knew. "Don't die here. Not yet." Sister Mercy raised her lantern, casting long shadows across the square. "Men who trade blood for coins forget one truth," she said evenly. "Every coin bears a skull when you turn it in the firelight." Jax tipped his hat mockingly. "Preacher, I'll save you a sermon slot at Colt's funeral." Then the silver-toothed outlaw drew. The square erupted gunfire, snapping sharp, sparks lighting the dark like angry stars. Bullets whined off beams, tore through silence. Colt's revolver barked twice, kicking dust near Jax's boots. Tomas lunged with his knife, knocking one gunman from his saddle. Mae screamed Colt's name, clutching the ledger. Finch scrambled for cover as boards splintered around him. And above it all, Jax laughed wild, reckless, like a man who'd already sold his soul and was just waiting for delivery. The fight had come to the ghost town, and dawn was still hours away. The abandoned town howled with violence. Bullets cracked against sun-bleached timbers, boards splintering like dry bones. Dust spiraled up in choking clouds, mixing with the gunpowder smoke until the night itself seemed to bleed. Colt Maddox crouched behind a trough, revolver smoking hot in his grip. He counted the seconds between shots, the way an old card shark counts cards. Jax Holleran's laughter ricocheted off the ghost town walls, silver tooth flashing like a cursed star whenever the muzzle flash lit his grin. Mae Delaney pressed against the trough beside Colt, clutching the ledger so tight her knuckles blanched. "They'll box us in, Colt. This town's got 100 windows for rifles to whisper through." "Then we don't let 'em whisper," Colt growled. He popped up, fired twice. One of Jax's riders spun from his saddle, landing in the dust with a cry swallowed by the night. Sister Mercy moved along the saloon balcony above, robes fluttering in the desert wind. Her pistol boomed steady, one shot, one him, each round finding a mark. She shouted down to Colt, her voice fierce as scripture. "The Lord delivers judgment, but tonight he lends his aim." Little Finch scrambled behind an overturned wagon, satchel bouncing. He yelled, "More coming! I saw their lanterns on the ridge." His voice cracked with fear but carried the urgency of a church bell. Tomas Vega fought in silence. His blade shimmered in the lantern light, quick as lightning. He dragged a wounded gunman into the shadows, steel flashing once, leaving only silence in its place. Jack spurred his horse into the square, reckless and grinning. "Come on, Maddox. You owe me blood, and I mean to collect." Colt rose to meet him, but a sudden flare lit the street. Sheriff Pike's riders cresting the ridge, torches in hand. More guns, more death promised. Mae gasped. He brought the whole town with him. "No," Colt said grim. He brought the hangman's dawn early. Gunfire roared anew. Bullets smashed through windows, sending shards raining down. The ghost town was alive with echoes, shouts, shots, screams folding into one another until it was impossible to tell who was winning, only that everyone was losing. Jax closed the distance, leaping from his horse, rolling into cover across from Colt. His grin gleamed through the smoke. "By the time the sun rises, you'll be just another name in that book." Colt's eyes locked with his cold fire steady. "Then I'll write it myself." A lantern toppled in the chaos, flames licking at old timbers. The ghost town groaned as if waking from its grave. Firelight joined the muzzle flashes, casting every face in devil's glow. Mae screamed above the din, her voice cutting sharper than any bullet. "Colt, if we don't run now, this town will burn us all alive." The ledger weighed heavy in Colt's hand. He looked at the flames, at Pike's men swarming closer, at Jack's grinning like the devil himself. Choices closed in like vultures, and in that instant, Colt knew the ghost town would not survive the night. But maybe, just maybe, his promise could. The ghost town burned. Fire clawed across the timbers, each crack and groan echoing like a death rattle. Sparks leapt into the black sky, mingling with the gunfire that split the night. The town that once died of silence was dying again, this time in noise and flame. Colt Maddox shoved Mae Delaney behind the crumbling trough as bullets chewed the ground. He fired 3 times, his revolver spitting thunder into the firelight. One deputy fell, another staggered back cursing. Still, Pike's men pressed in. "Ledger, Colt!" Mae cried, clutching the book to her chest. "They'll tear us apart for it." Colt grabbed her wrist, eyes fierce beneath the shadow of his hat. "They'll tear this whole land apart if it gets in Pike's hands. We keep it, even if it kills us." Jax Holloran ducked from cover, laughing through the smoke. "It will kill you, Maddox. Ledger's cursed. Pike wants it. I'll sell it. Doesn't matter who owns it, book like that writes its own ending." He fired. A bullet clipping Colt's sleeve, grazing skin. Colt hissed but didn't flinch. He shot back, splintering the post near Jax's head. The outlaw's silver tooth gleamed, still grinning even with death licking his heels. Above, Sister Mercy fired calmly into the chaos, hymnal bag swinging at her side. "Hold fast, children," she thundered. "The night is darkest before the Lord's reckoning." Her bullet struck true, another rider toppling into the flames. Little Finch darted between shadows, small frame near invisible in the smoke. He scrambled toward the telegraph shack at the edge of town, satchel bouncing. "I can send it!" he yelled. "The names. I can send them all before they kill me." "Finch, stay down!" Colt roared. But the boy was already gone, swallowed by firelight. Sheriff Pike emerged through the haze, calm as a banker at the gallows. His hat was rimmed in flame, his smile colder than the desert stars. "Colt Maddox," he called, voice cutting through the smoke. "You can't fight dawn. By first light you'll hang. Hand over the ledger, and I'll give Mae her life. Deny me, and I'll take hers first." Mae's breath hitched. She clutched Colt's arm, whispering, Don't let him." Colt's gaze never wavered from Pike. "You'll have to cut my promise out of my chest first." The sheriff raised his revolver. But before he fired, Tomas Vega struck from the shadows, knife flashing, dragging a rider from his horse, steel red in the firelight. Vega's voice was low, steady. "I'll cover you. Run, Colt. Run while you still have night. Jack stepped into the square, revolver spinning lazy in his grip. His laughter was drowned by the roar of flames devouring rooftops. No running, Maddox. You and me settle it here. Colt's revolver was hot in his hand, his hat brim wet with sweat, his promise heavy as the ledger under Mae's arm. The town groaned again, rafters collapsing in an explosion of sparks. The fire was swallowing every escape, turning the night into a trap. Colt squared himself, gun raised, eyes locked on Jack's. Then let's settle it. The flames crackled louder, drowning out even Pike's threats. And above the fire's roar, Colt's vow hung unbroken. One day, Mae would wear his hat. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the Wild West. The fire's breath filled the ghost town square, choking, hot, relentless. Shadows leapt like devils across broken walls. The world had shrunk to one circle of flame, and inside it stood two men, Colt Maddox and Jax Halloran. Mae Delaney clutched the ledger, her eyes wide, torn between the man she trusted and the man who would see him dead. Tomas Vega dragged another wounded rider into the shadows, but even he paused, knife dripping, to watch. Sister Mercy steadied herself above, pistol ready, lantern glow painting her face like a prophet awaiting judgment. Jax grinned, silver tooth flashing bright through the smoke. Always knew it'd end this way, Maddox. Just you, me, and the devil taking bets. Colt adjusted his hat brim, eyes steady. You owe me a sunrise, Jax. I mean to collect. Guns hovered at their sides, waiting to fly. The world held its breath. Even Sheriff Pike, watching from the smoke with his men, paused to witness the reckoning. Mae's voice broke the silence, sharp as glass. Colt, don't. But the draw came. Two flashes tore the dark. One bullet cracked into the dirt by Colt's boot, spraying dust. The other slammed into Jax's shoulder, spinning him sideways. His revolver clattered across the ground. He staggered, silver grin faltering, but not gone. Blood soaked his sleeve, yet his laugh rasped out, ragged and mad. You, still slow on the left hand. Colt's revolver stayed leveled. His breath was steady, but his eyes carried weight enough to crush stone. You ain't got another hand to gamble with. Jax lunged. Not for his gun, his knife. The blade glinted red from the firelight as he slashed upward. Colt sidestepped, hat brim brushing sparks, and slammed his revolver's barrel into Jax's jaw. The outlaw toppled into the dust, silver tooth flashing one last time in the fire's glow. The square fell silent except for the crackle of flames. Mae rushed forward, clutching Colt's arm. It's over. Colt shook his head. Not yet. He looked to the shadows where Pike lingered, the sheriff's smile faint but deadly. Not while he's still breathing. Pike stepped into the firelight, calm as ever. You've killed one outlaw, Maddox. Kill another, and you'll be the same as me. A name in that ledger. Little Finch stumbled back into the square, soot staining his face. His satchel hung empty. I tried, Mr. Maddox. I sent some of the names before the wires went dead. Folks'll know. Maybe not all of it, but enough. Pike's smile thinned. For the first time, a flicker of worry cracked his mask. Sister Mercy called down, voice ringing through the smoke. Then judgment's already riding, Sheriff, and it won't wait for dawn. Pike's hand twitched near his gun. Colt lifted his revolver, firelight burning in his eyes. Mae gripped his arm tight, whispering, Colt, if you shoot him now, you'll carry it forever. The promise dies with you. The fire roared higher. Timbers collapsing, sparks raining across the square like falling stars. The night was closing, and dawn was riding fast. Colt stood between the woman he loved, the lawman who owned the town, and the promise he could not break. The gun in his hand felt heavier than any hat, and in the silence before the next shot, the whole town seemed to ask, what will Colt Maddox choose? The ghost town burned around them, timbers shrieking as they collapsed. The flames lit every face in the square. Colt Maddox with his revolver steady, Mae Delaney clutching the ledger, Sheriff Amos Pike standing calm in the firelight, his hand hovering near iron. Jax Holloran lay in the dirt, groaning, silver tooth dark with blood. He laughed still, weak but sharp. "Go on, Colt. Kill him. Then you'll see what it feels like wearing a badge in hell." Pike's smile twitched. "You're a dead man, Jax. But even dying, you tell truths." Colt's eyes locked on the sheriff. "The only truth is you're in this ledger deeper than any outlaw I ever knew. By dawn, this book will hang you higher than me." Mae's voice cracked. "Colt, don't do this here. Don't let fire be our judge." Pike chuckled, smooth as a banker taking coin. "You think that girl's promise will save you? Think again. You hand me the ledger, Maddox, and I'll let her walk. I'll even let you keep your life for a while. Refuse and I'll cut her down first." Mae stiffened, clutching Colt's arm. "He'll never let us walk. He can't." Little Finch stumbled into the square again, coughing, soot streaking his face. "Sheriff's lying. I saw the telegraph wires. I sent enough names. Folks will know. You can't stop it." Pike's mask cracked just a flicker, just enough. His deputies shifted uneasily. Doubt spread like smoke in dry grass. Tomas Vega stepped forward, knife still dripping, his silence heavier than words. He pointed the blade at Pike, then to the flames, as if to say, "This ends now." Sister Mercy's voice rolled down from the balcony above, steady and cold. "Sheriff Amos Pike, your name's already carved in judgment. Shoot tonight, and the sun will rise on your grave." Pike's jaw tightened, his revolver lifted. Colt's heart thudded once, heavy as thunder. Mae's breath was warm at his side. The promise burned in his chest like a brand. He raised his revolver, barrel leveling with Pike's heart. The sheriff smiled one last time. "By dawn, Maddox, you'll wear a rope instead of a hat." And then a shot cracked, not from Colt, not from Pike. From the shadows behind, Jax Holloran's revolver barked one final time. Pike staggered, blood blooming across his vest, surprise freezing his face. He dropped to his knees, pistol clattering in the dust. Jax coughed blood, silver tooth flashing in the firelight. "Told you I'd collect my debt, Colt. Sunrise belongs to me." His body slumped, lifeless, into the dirt. The sheriff writhed, choking, his deputies frozen in horror. Colt lowered his gun slowly, the firelight painting his face in steel and ash. Mae clutched the ledger tighter, her eyes wide with shock. Sister Mercy crossed herself, whispering a prayer. Finch sobbed once, raw and small. Vega only watched, silent as stone. Colt stepped forward, hat brim low, his voice quiet but cutting. "By dawn, Sheriff, this town won't remember your smile, only your sins." Pike's breath rattled. His hand reached for the ledger, then fell still. His eyes glazed in the firelight, and the lawman of dust and lies was gone. The flames roared higher, the town collapsing around them. But dawn had not yet come, and promises still weighed heavy in the dust. The sheriff's body lay still, flames painting his shadow across the dirt. For the first time in years, the crooked lawman's smile was gone, and silence claimed what no bullet could. Colt Maddox stood over him, revolver lowered, chest rising heavy. The brim of his hat caught sparks, but he didn't move. Mae Delaney clutched the ledger to her heart, eyes locked on Colt as if afraid he might vanish into the fire with the others. Little Finch crept closer, his voice a cracked whisper. "He's gone, Mr. Maddox. Sheriff Pike's really gone." Sister Mercy descended the saloon's stairway, lantern swinging. Her gaze swept the carnage, her words falling solemn as scripture. "The fire purges, but it don't absolve. His sins will follow him into the dust." Tomas Vega wiped his blade clean on a torn coat, eyes steady on Colt. "Killing the sheriff won't kill the names in that book. There are men who'll come hunting, more dangerous than Pike ever was." Mae's fingers trembled against the ledger's spine. "Then what do we do, Colt? We can't run forever." Colt finally lifted his gaze, eyes burning as steady as the fire. "We take the ledger where no lawman or outlaw can bury it. We make sure every name inside sees daylight. That's the only way it stops killing." Finch tugged his satchel close, soot smearing his cheek. "I sent what I could by wire, but the lines burned. The rest, it's all in there." His wide eyes fell on the ledger. "That book's heavier than lead." Mae turned to Colt. "And it's yours to carry, but you're not carrying it alone." Colt touched the brim of his hat, meeting her eyes. "One day," he said softly, "you'll wear this. And when you do, the weight will be gone." Before she could answer, a groan echoed across the square. One of Pike's deputies, wounded but alive, dragged himself to his knees. His voice rasped like sand. "Pike's gone, but the men he worked for won't stop. You don't know what's coming." Sister Mercy raised her pistol, but Colt shook his head. "Let him live. Let him carry word that the ledger's out in the open now." The deputy spat blood, hatred in his eyes, but fear deeper still. He limped into the smoke, vanishing into the desert night. The fire consumed the last of the ghost town, collapsing walls in a thunder of sparks. The group moved to the edge of town, horses restless, the desert wind cold against their faces. Dawn bled slowly across the horizon, a faint stripe of grey and rose. Colt pulled Mae close onto his horse, the ledger pressed between them. Finch scrambled onto another mount, Thomas steady at his side. Sister Mercy swung into her saddle, lantern extinguished, pistol holstered. The ghost town died behind them, swallowed by flames. Ahead lay the desert, wide and merciless, and the enemies whose names still slept in ink. Colt Maddox tipped his hat against the rising light. His voice was a low vow carried by the wind. "This sunrise is ours, no matter the cost." And as the horses thundered into the desert, the first rays of dawn revealed not peace, but the promise of war yet to come. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the Wild West. The dawn stretched pale across the desert, a thin light that did nothing to soften the weight in Colt Maddox's chest. Behind them, the ghost town was nothing but smoke and ruin, a graveyard of ash. Ahead, the desert spread endless, whispering its promise of thirst and silence. Colt's horse snorted, uneasy. Mae Delaney pressed against him, the ledger tight in her arms. She hadn't spoken since they'd ridden out, her silence heavier than words. Tomas Vega rode a steady flank, eyes scanning the horizon with the patience of a hawk. Sister Mercy rode behind, her lantern gone but pistol ever near, the smoke still clinging to her robes. Little Finch trailed, small hands gripping the reins like a boy holding on to life itself. They had barely crested the next ridge when the desert answered with hooves. Dust rose to the east, riders half a dozen at least charging hard, rifles gleaming in the morning light. Colt's jaw tightened. Pike's men weren't bluffing. Someone else was waiting for that ledger. Mae's breath caught. "Who are they?" "Men who'll kill for ink," Colt said. Tomas squinted. "Not deputies. Too mean, too free." The riders drew closer, and Colt saw the truth in their faces. Bounty killers, guns for hire, the kind that followed money's scent the way wolves followed blood. Their leader wore a black duster and a broad hat, face hidden save for the scar that cut from jaw to ear. He lifted a rifle in greeting, his voice carrying like iron in the wind. "Maddox, Sheriff Pike owed debts, but you killed the man who owed them. That ledger's worth more than your life. Hand it over, and maybe we'll leave you enough bones to bury." Mae's grip tightened on the book. "Colt, we can't outrun them." "No," Colt said, eyes cold, "but we can outfight them." He pulled his revolver, checked the cylinder, and spurred his horse forward. "Finch, ride hard north. If we fall, you take that ledger to the next wire station. Don't stop till you send every name." The boy's eyes went wide. "But Mr. Maddox—" "Go," Colt barked, voice sharp as a gunshot. Finch whipped his reins, horse bolting away across the flats. The bounty killers split, two riders breaking off after the boy. Tomas growled low, knife flashing in the Sunday. "I'll ride them down." He spurred his horse, sand spraying, charging after the hunters. That left Colt, Mae, and Sister Mercy against the rest. Gunfire cracked across the flats. Bullets sang past like hornets. Colt fired back, dropping one rider clean from the saddle. Mae ducked low, clutching the ledger as the horse bucked beneath them. Sister Mercy raised her pistol, her voice ringing like a hymn. "The Lord strikes through willing hands." Her shot shattered the lead rider's shoulder, spinning him to the dust. The scarred leader rode through the storm of bullets, rifle steady, eyes locked on Colt. He fired once. The round tore Colt's hat, grazing his scalp, the brim ripping wide. Blood ran warm, but Colt didn't falter. He pulled his revolver, sighted steady, and fired. The scarred rider swayed but stayed mounted, rage burning in his eyes. Mae clutched Colt's back, whispering fiercely, "Don't break, Colt." "Not now." Colt's voice was gravel in the wind. "I made a promise, Mae, and I'll keep it even if the desert takes me." The sun rose higher, glaring off steel and dust. Hooves thundered, guns roared, and the desert became a battlefield where promises weighed more than bullets. And as Colt faced the charging riders, blood on his brow, he knew the ledger wasn't the heaviest thing he carried. The promise was. The desert floor shook beneath a storm of hooves. Colt Maddox rode hard, dust stinging his eyes, revolver hot in his hand. The scarred rider and his men circled like wolves, closing tighter with every pass. Gunfire cracked across the flats, bullets whining past like angry bees. Mae Delaney clung to him, arms locked tight around the ledger. "Colt, there's too many." "Then we cut 'em down till there ain't," Colt growled. Sister Mercy fired again from her saddle, pistol steady even as her horse reared. A rider spun from his mount, crashing into the dust. She shouted above the din, "Judgment rides with us!" To the north, Little Finch's horse darted across the flats. The boy hunched low, riding like a spirit chased by the wind. Behind him thundered two bounty killers, rifles raised. But Thomas Vega was already there, his horse leaping through the sand, knife in hand. He struck fast, dragging one rider from his saddle. The man's scream tore across the plain, cut short by steel. The second hunter swung his rifle, but Tomas hurled his blade. It spun in the sunlight, burying itself deep in the man's chest. The rider toppled, trampled beneath his own horse. Finch looked back, terror in his wide eyes. But Tomas shouted one word, "Ride!" and the boy obeyed, vanishing toward the horizon. Back in the fray, Colt faced the scarred leader head-on. The man raised his rifle, eyes cold as slate. Colt's revolver barked first, grazing his arm, spinning him half out of the saddle. The leader snarled, blood dripping down his coat, but didn't fall. Mae screamed, "Colt!" as another rider charged from the side. Colt wheeled his horse, fired once the shot split the man's hat, dropping him lifeless into the sand. The scarred leader steadied his rifle again. "Ledger's mine, Maddox. Pike's dead, but his debts live on. Hand it over or I'll carve her name next in the dust." He nodded toward Mae. Colt's eyes narrowed. The promise in his chest burned hotter than the wound on his scalp. "You won't touch her." The two men spurred forward, horses colliding in a storm of sand. Colt's revolver barked. The leader's rifle roared. Both men grunted. Both struck. Colt reeled, shoulder blazing with pain, but stayed mounted. The scarred rider tumbled from his horse, rifle slipping from his hands, blood darkening the sand beneath him. The last of his men broke and fled, dust tails vanishing into the horizon. The desert grew still again, save for the pant of horses and the crackle of hot wind. Colt swayed in the saddle, blood soaking his sleeve. Mae caught him, her voice trembling. "Colt, stay with me." He gritted his teeth, steadying himself. "I ain't done yet." Sister Mercy reigned beside them, her face grim but resolute. "The boy rides with the ledger. Dawn will see truth delivered. But this war ain't over. The names in that book carry long shadows." Colt adjusted his hat, torn and bloodied, eyes fixed on the horizon where Finch had gone. Then we ride after him. Promises don't keep themselves. The wind hissed over the sand, carrying the stench of gunpowder and blood. The sun climbed higher, merciless, casting every survivor in its unforgiving light. And as Colt spurred his horse north, he knew the final reckoning waited just beyond the next rise. The desert stretched endless, a sea of golden dust, as the sun broke fully over the horizon. Colt Maddox rode hard despite the blood soaking his shoulder, Mae Delaney clutching the ledger tight against him. Behind them, Tomas Vega and Sister Mercy kept pace, weary but unbroken. Ahead, on the ridge, a lone horse waited. Little Finch sat tall in the saddle, the morning light framing him like a boy carved from the dawn. When he saw Colt, he waved, the ledger's satchel strapped across his chest now. He had taken the weight. Colt reined in, chest heaving. Mae slid from the horse, rushing to Finch. "Did you send it?" she asked, voice trembling. Finch nodded, soot-streaked face alight with pride. "Names are gone, Miss May. Sent 'em all before the wire burned. Whole territory knows now." Sister Mercy dismounted, bowing her head. "Then justice rides faster than bullets. The sheriff's shadow won't cover this land again." Colt swayed in the saddle, blood loss painting his vision in haze. May turned, gripping his arm. "Colt, don't you dare fall now. You kept your promise this far." He managed a tired smile beneath the torn brim of his hat. "One day," he rasped, "you'll wear this hat. Not because I'm gone, but because I lived long enough to hand it to you." May's eyes brimmed, catching firelight and sunrise all at once. She took the hat gently as Colt lowered it into her hands. It was sweat-stained, battered, brim-torn, but it carried every vow, every mile, every bullet he'd ever survived. Vega stood silent, knife at his side, watching the moment with the respect of a man who understood burdens. Finch clutched the satchel close, small but fierce. Sister Mercy crossed herself, whispering, "Amen." Colt lifted his gaze to the Sunday. For the first time in years it felt warm instead of cruel. His voice was low, steady, and final. "Dawn's ours." The desert wind carried his words away, scattering them like dust and promise across the wide horizon. And as May placed the battered hat on her head, the promise was kept. The sun rose higher, bright and merciless, and the riders turned north, shadows long behind them, the future wide and uncertain. The ledger was no longer a secret. It was a fire burning across the land. But Colt Maddox had given his word, and in the Wild West, a word was heavier than lead. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the Wild West.